Hey all, Alex here at your home of the Music Deep Dive, and today we'll be doing a review of the 1831 autobiography by Mary Prince, The History of Mary Prince, a West Indian slave related by herself. Mary Prince, born around the 1st of October 1788 in Bermuda, death date unknown but likely after the mid-1830s, perhaps in London. Born into slavery, Prince worked for several salt miners in the West Indies, being subjected to harsh working conditions and frequent abuse, watching her family get sold off and some of her colleagues die in front of her. When Prince was sold to John Wood of Antigua in 1815, she worked as a domestic slave, upkeeping the house, and faced yet more barrages of verbal and physical abuse. And despite marrying a free black man and moving to London, she faced constant pressure from Wood to return throughout the rest of her life, and Wood refused to let her out of her bondage even when she did eventually relocate across the Atlantic. This narrative was ghostwritten by the British author Susanna Strickland, born the 6th of December 1803 in Bungay, Suffolk, died the 8th of April 1885 in Toronto. Strickland was an abolitionist who was introduced to Prince via another abolitionist writer named Thomas Pringle, and as Prince was illiterate, Strickland took down her story while, as she mentions in the introduction, making a point of preserving Prince's personality and her speech patterns. I will also use this space to mention that this is the second of the 4 narratives included in this collection, the classic slave narratives by Henry Louis Gates Jr. Again, I'm doing each one of these over the course of 4 days this week. If you have not read this collection, highly recommend picking it up. Now, given the constraints of this being an effectively ghost-written work, the actual narrative itself isn't always especially elegant in structure because it's the narrative of one person being told through another, but I also don't think it's fair to expect that, especially when the focus is less on making this a standalone work of literature like I think the Aluda Equiano book was in some levels, and more on making just a convincing case. And even then, only about half the book is actually done in Prince's words. The rest is a third-person summary of what happened to Prince after her arrival in London, specifically the numerous attempts by Wood to lure her back to Antigua. And it all makes for something that is quite concise, but very effective. And I think that second half works on a level of kind of activism and advocacy. But comparing this to the Equiano narrative, this one really gives a sense of what it is like to live in an actual community of enslaved people, either on a plantation or, in Parker's case, in the midst of salt mines. And the reality is terrifying. Parker and Strickland don't hide any details about what actually happened to her and the others who were enslaved with her. And I think the descriptions of death and whippings in this work are as gruesome as it gets at times. Like Equiano, though, there is something to be said for the focus on Christianity as a solace in this narrative. And it was striking to hear her say how during so many nights she felt like everyone had deserted her, everyone else in this world had been lost, except for God. There is a power to this spirituality that I think transcends any lack thereof that you as a reader may have. It's a very crushing isolation that she describes, and the comfort that she feels in her religion and clings onto is reassuring to us as a reader, especially given the atrocities that she describes having experienced. Overall, given how brief it is, there isn't a ton to say. I think this narrative is an incredibly important read, and where it also sticks out, again, especially in the second half, is in showing how abolitionists and activists utilize these stories to present a case. Not just a single person advocating for themselves, but there are real signs of a movement here. If you've read something like the Equiano or like Frederick Douglass's narrative and you want to hear about this experience from the perspective of a woman, give it a read. And that's it. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. As always, more reviews are to come. Tell a friend as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time right here at your home of the Music Deep Dive.